Today is going to be a hot topic. Faye sitting in a conspiracy room in a bathrobe, no makeup, hair shaved, eyebrow shaved. What is happening? I'm going to talk about my big fat body today. Because it seems as though a lot of you have noticed I've received your complaints, received your comments. I also know where they're coming from, but we'll deal with that sleep paralysis demon another day, because I know it's exactly what it wants. Anyways, I want to talk about my big fat body, and I'm 100% serious. This isn't a weight loss guide. This isn't a pledge to lose weight. It's just a very open and honest discussion about my body and how it's always been, because so many of you seem so interested in why I'm so fat and ugly. We're going to be talking about my relationship with food, because it's something that I've been working on, and my own relationship with my body, also my relationship with my health in general, because it's just something that I feel like I've only recently started taking very seriously. It's never really been something that I've taken seriously before. Food, health, my body are honestly things that I've taken for granted for the longest time. And I just want to take a minute now and actually dedicate a long form video to sort of organize my thoughts about it. So this is going to be a ramble. I mean, I'll leave it up to editing Faye to sort out exactly how to compose this mess. But for the moment, that's what we're going to do. So let's talk about food. I've never had a good relationship with food, like ever. I've never ever had a good relationship with food. When I was a very little kid, I would never eat anything. My mum would sit with me trying to feed me for literal hours. The food would go cold and she would reheat it several times because of how many times it went cold. I would not eat as a child, but as I grew up, I started eating normally. I think my mum realized that I hated having things done for me. The first time she pulled my teeth out, because they were milk teeth, that's something that I never wanted her to do again. So from that point on, I took out all of my teeth. So I think that my thought process there was that I never wanted my mother to feed me because I wanted to feed myself. I would also participate in like family stuff. Growing up in a Muslim household, I would like participate in Ramadan from a really young age, but that wasn't much of an issue. It was just to escape the seething wrath of my mother who wanted to feed me. And then growing up, the establishment of 3 meals a day was definitely there, but they weren't the best eating habits, you see. So the eating habits were described as: Faye always has breakfast, Faye has lunch at school, Faye has a meal after she comes back from school, and then Faye has dinner at the end of the night. So it wasn't really 3 meals. I think my mother considered like school meals a snack, and she was probably early, like from an really early in my age, that she was very traumatized by the fact that I would not eat. She, in a sense, overfed me. Now we progress to here, where I'm no longer in the nest and I am trying to fend for myself in the world as a young adult, or as most people would call it by now, an adult. I'm slowly beginning to realize that I can't go several days without food and then binge on one day and then call that like healthy and normal. This is actually why I was calling it an eating disorder for such a long time. I had an eating disorder while I was in my father's house, towards like the last few years that I was there after my mother had passed away, because I was just not eating. I was having a lot of, like, I wasn't having meals. I was having snacks and hella sugar, like sugar on sugar on sugar. I was not having meals because I had come into this very weird space where I felt like if I did not feel good, then I could not eat. Like if I felt like a failure, then I could not consume food because I didn't deserve it. And that sort of mentality has sort of translated into my current eating habits. It's wonderful. I'm kidding. It's terrible. And that is something that I'm working on through therapy. And it's, I don't know where it's going, to be honest. It's slowly getting better. It's just not perfect right now. For those of you who are actually concerned, I know that Alicia on many occasions has tried to do her best to actually cook me meals and bring them to me, so I will feel guilty enough to eat them because I don't want them to go to waste. However, if I buy myself food and I am in that headspace where I don't feel like I deserve to eat, food literally goes off in my fridge. It's terrible. I hate it because as a kid, I was brought up on the very simple principle that we don't waste food, because food is a very precious resource that a lot of people don't have access to, and we should never waste food. And I will be the first person in the room to say that I always clean my plate if I'm eating a meal. So it really, really disappoints me when I get into this headspace where I'm like, I don't deserve to eat, but then my food is going off, and then I'm like, oh shit, I don't deserve to eat even more because I've wasted food. And this was a really, really poor habit that it's kind of been going on since like 2018. It's been an on and off routine, but it has exacerbated in like the last 2 years, mainly because there have been certain people in my life that have frequently and consistently made me feel inadequate. And there's also me, who's also sat in my own head and made me feel inadequate. Listen, it's a work in progress. I currently have resumed, like for a few years there, I wasn't eating breakfast at all. I thought it was a waste of time. I thought it was time that I was trading in for sleep, and I just wouldn't have breakfast ever. If I had breakfast, it was like a cup of coffee, and it was not a good idea. Don't start your day with caffeine. Start your day with nutrients. My breakfast has resumed as usually. It's not a huge breakfast, like a piece of fruit. I usually go with a banana because it gives me that energy, and at the end of the day I feel just lighter, generally speaking. I don't know, bananas do that for me. And I'm having at least 1 or 2 meals on top of that, so that's something that I've been trying to schedule into my routine. And something that really, really I feel like hurt me mentally is that most of the time when I eat, it's at work. And not having that in the lockdown was a really big hit to my like desire or appetite for food. Like it really, really hit me that I treat eating as a social activity rather than a something I need to do activity, like a chore, mundane chore activity. I saw it more of as a social activity, and it really began to dawn on me that I don't want to eat if I'm not eating with other people. And I don't know what that's about. I guess it's just having grown up in a big family and always eating. Like when I was a kid, we used to do this thing on Saturdays where we would have fish and chips. Like my mum would make fish and chips from like these potatoes that we would get out of our garden, and fish that my dad had caught that month from whatever seaside he'd gone to. And she would make fish and chips, and we would put it all in like this round, we used to call it like a tal. It was like this big round metal tray. We would put it all in there, and we would all eat together from that one tray. That's how I feel like food should be expressed. That's how I was raised with food. And I don't know what it is about that just adds flavor to it, you know? And in the lockdown where I had absolutely nobody, you know what, having a pet just lurking around in the background definitely helped. It definitely helped my eating habits. And also having friends who are like, hey, do you want to talk and we can eat together kind of thing on Discord or on WhatsApp or whatever on social media was also a really nice thing, because it felt like that it resembled that communal eating habit that I had created for myself. And now that I've returned to like a physical office, I have that back and it feels amazing. But I don't want to fall back into my old routine, so I actually need to put things in place mentally for if that happens again, what do I do? Like, for example, Faye, what do you do on the weekends? Usually I'm eating with somebody online. I know it sounds sad, but that's the truth. Like, I would quite literally, before I got the hamster and before I'd come up with the genius, it was Saf's idea, by the way, the genius idea of eating with someone on Discord, I would just turn on a YouTube video and watch it while I eat, and it would feel weird when the room went quiet. And I don't know, it was a very bizarre thought process that I went to realize that. Let's talk a little bit about my body. I've always been a fat chick. Like, since I was a little kid, I've always been a fat kid. You see baby photos of me and I'm just this smirking fat child. Like, that's all I am. And one thing, like, I'm not going to say that my parents were the perfect parents, because there was definitely things that, you know, I'm not going to sit here and judge my parents. My parents were not the best parents, but one thing they did right was that they never gave me a sense of shame about what I looked like ever. And if I ever brought it home, they would shut it down very, very quickly. Like, my parents never called me fat. My parents never called me ugly. My parents never said that I looked or presented myself in a certain way that they didn't like. My parents never outwardly looked at me and said, oh, Faye, you're too this, you're too hairy, or you're too fat, or you're too short, or you're too whatever. They never used to do that. Part of it was their attentions were focused elsewhere. I have many siblings. But the other side of it was, I feel like they genuinely did not think of me as a bad-looking person as their child, which I think I'm definitely going to take into the future and take that. That was something good that they did, and I think that every parent should have that with their child, because instilling like this sense of essentially societally constructed version of beauty and attraction into a very young child can be incredibly detrimental. And that came in the form of my aunts, because my aunts had no chill. Okay, my aunts would constantly brag to me about how skinny they were at my age and how I couldn't be that skinny ever if I tried. And it's like, I look at them now and it's like,
well, I can't really envision that, but okay, I guess you were skinny once. I don't know why that has any bearing on me.
But I do feel as though that instilled confidence was only there because my parents literally never called me fat. Ever. Like, they never called me out on my appearance, ever. Like, it didn't really matter what phase I was going through at that. I mean, I didn't have too many phases, honestly, when I was a young kid, because I was very much into the religious thing, so I guess that was my phase. I never felt like an ugly child. Like, I specifically remember my mother telling me how beautiful I was when I was born. Like, she made me feel like I was the shit. Like, I was clearly her favorite. I'm just realizing that now. But she went to lengths to make me feel like I was completely normal. I would bring things home from school all of the time, saying that, oh, I'm the fattest girl in my school, everybody calls me fat, everybody says that I'm this. And she would always say, like, well, you're strong. Those girls aren't strong. You eat well. Those girls probably don't eat well. You know, you can cook, you can sew, you're so talented, you get good grades. Like, why does that matter? It was always that line of thinking. And like, even though my dad is a pretty terrible person, like, there's no denying that, I know that he doesn't think that I'm an ugly person, like, on a physical level. And here's why. I told this story recently in one of the podcasts we did, and it was a very good podcast. It should be coming out this Friday if everything is on track. I'm a little bit all over the place right now. But basically, my aunt really, really wanted me to get married. Like, she really, I don't know why she really, really wanted me to get married. I would say that she divorced her current husband because she hates him, and get married herself if she's that desperate for a wedding. But she was really, really desperate for me to get married. And the way that, like, arranged marriages work in our culture and in our family more specifically is that we pass along, like, wedding CVs. I wish I was kidding. It has, like, your name, date of birth, your parents' names, your grandparents' names, what village you come from, Bangladesh, and a picture of you, and maybe, like, some other stuff that you know, your hobbies or what you're interested in, whatever the hell. And she wanted my father to take some pictures of me. My father, by the way, is not a photographer. He's not an artist of any kind. And my aunt really thought that he could take some, like, I guess he in his mind it was just like, yeah, let's just take some passport photos of her and send them off. But my aunt wanted some beauty shots because she wanted to sell me to this mother-in-law of mine that she hoped to get me married to her son or whatever. And my dad's idea of a photo shoot was just wear any clothes that you feel comfortable in. Any clothes you feel comfortable in. So that's exactly what I did. Back then I wore like a hijab, and I wore a lot of dresses back then, loose fitting, of course. So I wore whatever I was comfortable with. And he looked at me and he was like, nice, you don't need any makeup. I think you look gorgeous as it is. And I don't know why he put on this persona, but he was like, acting like he was a real director here. He took me out into the garden. We had like a small, I don't even know how, it was a small garden. He took me out there and he was like, okay, we need some good lighting. So I want you to look directly at the sun. So all of the sunshine is in your face. And yeah, that's how we're going to do it. And my aunt saw that and she promptly drove over to our house and told him the fuck off, saying, why does she look like a mother of 5? Which at the time I practically was, because I was looking after all of my siblings, because my mother had passed away. But glossing over that, my dad did not think that I was an ugly person. My dad thought that I was so beautiful that I could wear whatever I wanted and put on absolutely no makeup, and he thought that I looked fine. And he was very upset that my aunt thought the opposite. He was very upset that my aunt picked out clothes for me, put makeup on my face, and then posed me for pictures, which she later sent off. He was very upset about that. I'm pretty sure he yelled at her for a very long while about that, because he was very hardline on the fact that my daughter looks the best when she's natural. And my mother was very much the same. Like, I was a very hairy kid. I still am a very hairy person. But my mother was very insistent that I didn't need to shave anything, ever. Because it's all natural and God gave it to you. And you should be proud of... You shouldn't have to hide anything that you're born with. And to an extent, I respect that a lot. I also had butt-long hair and incredibly hairy eyebrows. As you can see, they're not very hairy at the moment because I've shaved the tails. I've not been feeling particularly good about my body because of certain people noticing. So that was my parents' input on my body. Aside from that, the concept of like dressing for other people was very foreign to me because I didn't really care what my aunts thought. I didn't really care what people at my school thought. I would get like, what's the word? Self-conscious from time to time. But my parents were always there to kind of be like, well, fuck those girls. You're way better than them. And to an extent, I was one of the smartest kids in school. I was one of the most studious. I was a teacher's pet. And I was fairly talented at that time. I was a jack of all trades. I was like good at everything. Except for making friends, apparently. I guess, like, the concept of me dressing up really didn't occur to me until after I left religion, because I really didn't care that much about dressing up. Like, I would go to weddings in, like, completely black clothes. You know, like a standard black abaya, black hijab. I look great, fuck it. That was my whole look. And I would be told off by my aunts all of the time, like, you're meant to wear your best clothes to weddings. Why? I don't know these people. There's like 500 people here. Even if I did know someone here, they're not going to see me because there's seas of people. So many people. You get the point. The concept of dressing up and like finding my outfit, which by the way, is the topic of our podcast this week. I've just remembered, and I'm realizing that this is probably a poor episode choice because I'm talking about it all now and you're not going to watch the podcast. You should. It's a really good podcast. Saf's there, Mohammed's there, Simon's there. It's amazing. But this concept didn't occur to me until I was like 22-ish, where I gained a certain level of freedom that I had not had before because I was no longer restricted to loose, opaque clothing that covered my whole body. And that really, really fascinated me because I don't know if you've ever been in fight or flight mode before, but I've recently exited that mindset. Before that, I used to wake up every morning feeling super anxious or just really ready to just take on the world. And it's wild. It's wild. I was in fight or flight mode every single day. And that reflected in my clothing choices. In that Initially, it was very much, oh, I don't want to show anything, I'm going to wear as many clothes as possible. And I did wear as many clothes as possible, layer on layer on layer. It wasn't an abaya, it wasn't a hijab, it was just layer on layer on layer of clothing. I used to wear like a knee-length dress with a shirt on, with trousers or jeans, like full-length jeans, okay? And then on top of that, I used to wear a coat and I used to wear a scarf. Like, it was layers on layers and layers of clothing. And I am so grateful. I am so grateful for having friends. One particular friend, Alicia, who has just invested the most faith in me to do whatever I want with my body. And she chose to take me shopping on a day I chose violence. And we picked out some brilliant numbers, let me tell you. That was the day I discovered I don't care what I look like, but I fucking hate clothes. Because wearing the least amount of appropriate clothes is so comfortable all of the time for me. Because my blood runs really hot all of the time. Many people have told me that they don't understand how I live in this world, because I spent half of my life, or most of my life actually, in what is essentially a big black clothing. How did I live before now? How did I live? Was I just sweaty all the time? Did I stink? I probably stank, right? Anyways, I discovered that I don't really like clothing, and I didn't really care what my body looked like as long as I felt comfortable. So it was a lot of t-shirts, vests, and shorts. Like, that was my vibe. And I picked out some nice like crop tops and stuff as well when I felt like dressing up, which really isn't dressing up, because I still don't know how to color coordinate. I still don't know what clothes go with what. I just don't want to be hot all of the time. That's my MO. That's my city. That's where I want to be. But in terms of dressing specifically for my body, I've never been good at that, and I probably will never be good at that, because the thing is that my weight has always been, I've always been a fat chick. Like, that's it. And I think I'm quite happy being a fat chick, honestly. I have never really experienced my body any other way. My body has always been a certain level of soft. What I miss from the days where I was extremely traumatized about my body, what I miss about my body, not about the trauma, is that I was incredibly strong. I was incredibly strong. My legs were incredibly strong, and my arms were incredibly strong. I just had a lot of like a mother beer gut going on. But the rest of my body was incredibly strong, and I miss that. Like, my body no longer feels that strong. Every day I wake up and I feel like I've aged, and I'm pretty sure that's because I've finally gone over the 25-year mark where everything slowly just starts deteriorating. And I don't know, I really want to regain that strength back in my body. Like, I want really strong legs, I want really strong arms. And like, nobody could take me out in an arm wrestling contest before. And now, I don't feel the same. I don't feel like I could take just about anybody. Like, my dad used to arm wrestle with me. And I'm not going to say that I won most of those battles, because I didn't. But I would put up a fight, you know what I'm saying? Like, I could take on any of my cousins. I could take on any of my classmates. Arguably, I could probably take on any of my teachers, except maybe my martial arts teacher. I could never take on my dad, because he was my dad. But I was a beefy, fat strong girl, and I miss that. I miss that strength. Here's my body plan, because so many of you, really not that loving people, but also loving people, have noticed that my body has been putting on some pounds. Like, I've definitely gained some weight here. I've noticed the weight gain. When I've noticed it, then it's like, oh yeah, I've definitely put on weight. And that's mainly because of poor dietary habits over the last year, and also just poor taking care of my health habits over the year. And it was mainly due to the fact that I just did not want to leave my house as much as possible. So whatever exercises I was doing, it was all in the space of my room. And you might think that this conspiracy room is like a bit of an exaggeration for the size of my room, but it's only slightly larger than this. I specifically had this storage unit. This is a storage unit kitted out so that I can make more space in my room. Like, my room is vaguely a square now, whereas before it was just an L block that you find in Tetris. I have tried to put in I don't know why I'm explaining this to you like I owe you something, but I'm just telling you what I'm doing. Like I said, it's not a weight loss guide. It's not, I'm trying to reach a goal. It's just me trying to make more healthy choices because, as you should all know by now, health starts in the mind and it transfers. It transfers to the rest of your body. If you're unhealthy up here, you are unhealthy everywhere else. That's what I've learned over the last year. And I'm just trying to make more healthy patterns for myself. So I am currently trying to do at least 2 or 3 really heavy workout days. The rest of the days, this is something that I did not know up until very recently. The NHS has guidelines on what kind of exercises you should do if you're not like a gym freak. If you just want to make sure you're healthy, they have a pretty comprehensive list of exercises that would be good, ranging from strength training to cardio, and this is all without a gym membership. So I either might leave that in the description, but if I forget, look it up. It's so useful. I found it so useful. It just felt like I didn't need an expensive personal trainer. I didn't need a gym membership, even though technically I have one because, I work in a college, they have a gym. It's just not open at the moment because of COVID-19. But it really did make me feel like I can do this instead of, I've tried so many fad diets. Trust me, I've tried so many. I've tried the 5-2 diet, I've tried vegetarianism, and I did it for a number of other reasons as well. I went to a bunch of vegan conventions and I was just trying to change up the kinds of things that I eat, and I still do stick to most of those. I'm just not a vegetarian anymore. I stick to free-range organic food, free-range organic dairy. My main problem with meat is the way that it's produced in this country and in a lot of other countries, so it's not necessarily the meat itself that I find wrong. I've tried keto dieting, I've tried intermittent fasting. I did keto and intermittent fasting together. I've done calorie counting. I've done HIIT exercises for 12 weeks. Listen, stick to what you learned in primary school. Have a balanced diet and regularly exercise. That's it. That's it. There is no ideal body. There is definitely an idealized self that we all create for ourselves, but there is no ideal body type. There is no perfect Adonis human body type. Maybe you look at some people and you think, yeah, fuck yeah, that is a perfect body. But you have to remember that the lens that you see through is different to literally everyone else. And I think that being healthy and happy over being very attractive, sure, objectively, and really miserable on the inside, if I had to choose between the two, I know which one I'm choosing. The healthy one and the happy one. I took a break to airdrop my files because I ran out of space, and I took a recorder break. I'm learning to play the recorder again. It's going to be a very annoying time for all of my neighbors. I was talking about me and my unhealthy relationship with my body. That's getting healthier. It's getting a lot healthier. And the reason it's getting healthier is because of therapy. I've been slowly cleaning out my mind. I have been trying to adapt routines that I can actually stick to. I'm not one of those people that can follow a fad diet and lose 100 pounds in a couple of weeks. I'm the kind of person that needs to maintain a very mediocre body and stick to it because nothing else works for me. I need a very structured routine. So the routine that I've stuck to is very much a couple of meals a day. Sometimes we'll have dinner as a reward, and one of those meals is communal. And my exercise routine is very much I walk every day for 20 minutes regardless, and I spend most of the day walking anyway because I work in a college. And 3 or 2 days out of the week I will do some heavy exercise where I go on a run and I do some strength training, and I hang out with my favorite tree in the park, Albert, who I feel like judges me because he's probably like hundreds of years old, watching me run around the park and trying to meet him and also start at him. So yeah, I will one day climb Albert and we will respect each other. I respect him. I don't know what it is about that tree that I just feel so judged sometimes. So he's my personal trainer, and I'm hoping that I will build for myself a healthier and happier body rather than whatever you guys expect me to be. You know, I am just a 26-year-old woman in the world, living, existing, trying to survive. I'm honestly happy plateauing, you know? Like I'm honestly quite happy with where I am mentally, with the goals, mostly short-term goals that I have set up for myself. I don't know exactly where I'll be. The current plan that I have, I'm gonna continue working on it for about 12 weeks. I've literally made like little calendar reminders for that. I'm not cutting out anything specific. I'm just trying to do my best with what I've got, and I think that that's okay. I hope you found this video interesting. I don't know what exactly drove me to making this today. I don't know what is going on here, so just don't ask, just appreciate it, or just turn it off, honestly. I had a full face of makeup on today because I like my first 30 minutes of the day of me putting on makeup, but I literally came back home, I went for my run, I did some strength training, I ate a very well-deserved dinner, I came home because I ate in the park, and then I took a long bath to soothe my old aching body. And then I decided I wanted to make this. So I hope you found it interesting. I don't know who would be interested in this. It's just very much, I feel like a lot of people are pointing out my weight, and they're pointing it out as if I don't already know. I know. I live with me. I'm very aware. Thank you for reminding me for absolutely no reason. And you know where you're coming from, and I think that should say a lot more about you than it does me. But anyways, thank you for joining me. I hope you had a good time. Let me know what your body positivity struggles or your food habits are down in the comments below. I'd be very interested to know if I am not the only one going through this. It would make me feel better. And of course, if you like this video, remember to like, share, subscribe. All of my socials and anything else that you could possibly want of me is in the description below. If you didn't like this video, let me know why. Remember to smash that dislike button, unsubscribe below, and tell me what you hate about me. And I will see you in the next video.